On the news tonight, Supreme Court orders direct payment of local government allocations. Federal government to address minimum wage impasse. House of Representatives calls for an end to attack on journalists. Abroad, President Ruto dismisses almost the entire cabinet. Good evening. Welcome to Delta TV Main News Tonight. My name is Francis Ofulue. President Bola Tinubu has called for a review of all planned procurement in every ministry, department, and agency, especially major projects of the Ministry of Works, all in a bid to ensure better budget implementation. This was part of the resolution reached at the Federal Executive Council FEC meeting, which took place today at the State House in Abuja. FEC also sought an amendment of the legislation on the National Council on Procurement to make it more robust. Information Minister Mr. Mohammed Idris, who briefed journalists after the FEC meeting, said the President has directed that all projects that require additional funding, especially major projects of the Ministry of Works, be reviewed for further deliberations at the next council meeting. He said most of the road projects were inherited from successive administrations and were not part of the newly approved roads, such as the Lagos-Calabar Highway. Meanwhile, the Attorney General of the Federation, AGF, Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, said President Tinubu gave the directive to ensure quality infrastructure development and a solid procurement act to avoid corruption and also stem the tide of abandoned projects. The Supreme Court has declared that it is unconstitutional for state governors to hold onto funds meant for local government administrations. The Supreme Court, who declared this today, also barred governors from dissolving democratically elected local government councils in the country. The Apex Court, in a landmark judgment, said doing so would amount to a breach of the 1999 Constitution. In the lead judgment read by Justice Emmanuel Ajim, the Apex Court noted that the state government's refusal of financial autonomy for local government has gone on for over 2 decades. Justice Ajim said local governments have since stopped receiving the money meant for them from the state governors who act in their stead, adding that the 774 local government councils in the country should take charge of their funds. He emphasized that only democratically elected local government administrations are entitled to the funds and not caretaker committees, and dismissed the preliminary objections of the state governments, or governors rather, who are defendants. In his judgment, Justice Ajim stressed that the Attorney General of the Federation, AGF, has the right to institute the suit and protect the Constitution. Justice Ajim ordered the immediate compliance of the judgment, stating that no state government should be paid monies meant for local governments. He said there are 774 local government areas in the country, but the efficiency of the third tier of government has been hampered by the weight of some controlling and overbearing governors who have been accused of mismanaging funds meant for the administration of local governments. In another development, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, CJN, Justice Olukayode Ariwola, says the National Judicial Council, NJC, has activated the process of making errant judges who give misleading and conflicting judgments be made to face the consequences of their despicable conduct. The CJN spoke at the inauguration of 22 judges of the Court of Appeal at the main courtroom of the Supreme Court of Nigeria in Abuja, and urged the new justices to be upright and not toe the path of infamy, but adhere to the rule of law and the Constitution. The new appeal court justices were sworn in alongside 11 new judges for the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT. Part of those sworn in were the wife of the FCT Minister, Eberechi Wike, the Justice Donatus Okonkwo of the Federal High Court, Abuja, amongst other judges. The new justices are Abdullahi Mohammed Laman from Nasarawa State, Abiodun Azim Akinyemi from Ogun State, Olukayode Adebola Adenigi from Oyo State, Zainab Bagge Abubakar from Kebbi State, Ishaq Mohammed Sani from Kaduna State, Lateef Babajide Lawal Akpabo from Lagos State, and Ngozeka Okasabo from Imo State, respectively. Others include Rukayat Reremi Ayola from Kogi State, Polycarp Tena Kwaha from Benue State, Fadawa Umaru from Borno State, Oyewumi Oyechochu from Oyo State, Ntong Festus Ntong from Akwa Ibom State, Nehizena Idumudia Afolabi from Edo State, and Nnamdi Okwi Dimba from Abia State. Abdul Dogo from Federal Capital Territory Abuja, Abdulaziz M. Anka from Zamfara State, Owebunkwanye Owosi from Ebonyi State, Asmau Akambi Yusuf from Kwara State, Victoria Tochukwu Nwonye from Anambra State, and Eneche Eleojo from Kogi State are also part of the new justices. The federal government is optimistic that the impasse over the new minimum wage will be resolved next week. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mr. Mohammed Malagi, and his Labor and Employment for State counterpart, Mrs. Nkiruka Onyejocha, stated this after a closed-door session between President Bola Tinubu and the leaders of organized labor at the State House in Abuja. The meeting, which lasted about 1 hour, had in attendance the president of the Nigeria Labour Congress NLC, Comrade Joe Ajero, his counterparts at the Trade Union Congress TUC, Comrade Festus Osifo, and other members of the delegation. According to the TUC boss, the Labour delegation informed the president of the economic difficulties Nigerians were going through. The NLC president said the meeting was not a negotiation and the two figures remain on the table. The House of Representatives has called for an end to attacks against journalists by security agencies. The lawmakers have also resolved to investigate recent cases of journalist detention and to pressure the government to respect press freedom. The decision was coming today following the adoption of a motion moved by an Akwa Ibom lawmaker, Honorable Clement Jimbo. In the motion, Honorable Jimbo condemned the attack on journalists by security agencies using the Cybercrime Act and added that the police has continued to use the Cybercrime Act to attack journalists despite the amendment of the bill. He stated that attacks on journalists has increased under the current administration, stressing that it has become a troubling increase in the number of journalists being unlawfully arrested, detained and harassed for carrying out their professional duties, relying on the offense of cyberstalking within the Cybercrime Act 2015. Following the adoption of the motion, the House resolved to pass laws that strengthen press freedom protection, conduct inquiries into recent cases of journalist detention, and engage in efforts to pressure the government to respect press freedom. Ahead of the forthcoming local government elections slated to hold on Saturday, the State Commissioner of Police Delta State, CP Olufemi Abaniwanda, has ordered massive deployment across the state to ensure hitch-free elections. CP Abaniwanda noted that the command, in synergy with other sister agencies, has deployed massively across the state all polling units, resident area commissions racks, collation centers, and DCEC offices to ensure a hitch-free election and also protect the electorates and DCEC officials. He added that Marine Police have equally been deployed to the waterways to ensure a peaceful and orderliness during the election. The statement noted that there will be restriction of vehicular movement from 8 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon on Saturday, stressing that only officials on emergency and essential duties, which include accredited election monitors and observers, will be allowed passage. Also, NAPTEC examination students are exempted from the restriction of movement order. Members of the public are therefore advised to adhere to the instruction, as anyone found wanting would be made to face the rules of the law. He explained that a ban on VIP escorts during the election will also be enforced, as they are advised not to move with their security details on election day, as any officer found wanting will be arrested and sanctioned. UCP also advised all non-state actors, vigilante, anti-cult volunteers, hunters among others, that they will not be playing any role during the elections, urging them to steer clear of the polling units and the entire election process, as any of them found meddling in the election process will be decisively dealt with. While wishing residents of the state a hitch-free election, he said it was pertinent to note that the success of this election to a large extent lies on how the electorate conduct themselves, advising all residents to be law-abiding, assuring that the command will not compromise in carrying out its primary responsibility, of ensuring protection of life and property, as well as the preservation of public tranquility before, during, and after the elections. He said the following dedicated phone lines are available to the public to reach the command as a quick response contact for any complaint or distress situation during the exercise. Control room number 0803 668 4974. Control room number 0811 485 600. And control room number 0802 566 6914. The people of Ila in Oshomole North local government area have been called upon to come out in their numbers on Saturday to cast their votes for the PDP candidates in the local government elections. The executive assistant to the governor on public enlightenment, government project and policies, Mr. Olisai Fejika, made the call at Ila when his wife played host to women mobilizers drawn from the 3 wards in Ila. Ejime Odueme now reports. That story will come your way subsequently on our bulletin. Now, as a way of promoting food security in Nigeria, the Federal Executive Council (FEC) has announced the approval of 2,000 tractors, 4,000 disc plows, and 1,200 tractor trailers, among other equipment, under the National Agricultural Mechanization Program (NAMP). In a statement by President Bola Tinubu's Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Mr. Bayo Nanuga, on X, formerly called Twitter, outlined the outcomes of the FEC meeting in Abuja, saying the equipment will be supplied by DMCC firm, which is also planning to set up assembly plants of some of this equipment in the country. He said procurement of 2,000 tractors, 4,000 disc plows, 1,000 disc ridges, 1,200 tractor trailers, and assorted spare parts will be supplied for the National Agricultural Mechanization Program (NAMP) to strengthen national food security. He also noted that the federal government said it will engage stakeholders to get a guaranteed minimum price GMP for commodities, ramp up production, especially among smallholder farmers in the 2024-25 farming season, promote production of fortified food commodities and others. The development comes as Nigeria battles food security crisis with food inflation at 40.5% as households struggle to provide for their family across the country, even as the price of staple foods, especially grains, has seen an increase of over 100% in prices in the past year. Recently, the federal government announced plans to share 50,000 naira to 100,000 households across the country's 36 states for 3 months and purchase food items worth 155 billion naira to be distributed across the country. The Senate has confirmed the nomination of retired Deputy Inspector General of Police Hashimu Saliu Adugungu as Chairman of the Police Service Commission and Mr. Onyemuche Namani and Mr. Frederick Taiwo Lakuni as Secretary and Member. The confirmation followed the consideration of a report submitted by the Chairman of the Senate Committee on Police Affairs on the confirmation of the Police Service Commission. Senator Abdul Hamid Ahmed, representing Jigawa East. The immediate past president of the Senate, Senator Ahmed Lawan, however, pointed out that the Nigeria Police Force has suffered a manpower shortfall of 20,000 recruits in the last 2 years, owing to a supremacy tussle between the PSC and the leadership of the police force over recruitment of constables. The Nigeria Police Force had been mandated under the Buhari administration to recruit 10,000 police officers annually over 6 years. The President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, expressed disappointment that it took the Supreme Court intervention to resolve the matter, expressing the belief that the confirmation will hold further collision between the police and the PSC. DIG Adugungu was appointed as PSC chairman by President Bola Tinubu on June 10. He replaces a former Inspector General of Police, Solomon Arase, who was appointed to the position by former President Muhammadu Buhari in January last year. And now the chairman of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Mrs. Abike Dabiri Erewa, has highlighted economic instability food security concerns, and inadequate living standards as the primary drivers behind increasing migration of Nigerians abroad. Mrs. W. Arewa stated this at a press conference ahead of the National Diaspora Day celebrations 2024 on July 25 in Abuja. She noted that the theme of this year's National Diaspora Day, Japa Phenomena, and its implications for national development reflected growing concerns over the demographic most affected by this migration. Despite these challenges, Mrs. W. Arewa called for a change in perspective, urging Nigerians to see the positive side of the situation. Addressing the issues faced by the Nigerian students at Teesside University in the United Kingdom, Mrs. W. Arewa provided an update on the situation. The NITCOM boss also mentioned that Teesside University was not the only institution affected, noting that other universities have Nigerian students facing similar issues. She noted that despite the challenges immigrants face, to include racism, bureaucracy, corruption, and loneliness, the appeal of JAPA remains strong. The migration trend is evident across various sectors in Nigeria, including health, information technology, banking, and education. The 2024 World Migration Report showed that up to 402,186 Nigerians moved to the United States and 205,773 to the United Kingdom. Additionally, over 169,600 Nigerians relocated to Cameroon, 154,739 to Niger, and 103,462 others to Italy. The Defense Headquarters has disclosed that it has uncovered plans by terrorists affiliated to Boko Haram and the Islamic State of West African Province, ISWAP, to attack the nation's critical infrastructure. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, made this known while briefing newsmen on the operations of the armed forces in Abuja. Major General Buba said that the military and the security agencies responsible for securing critical infrastructure and facilities had in place measures to forestall the attacks. He called on citizens to support the military in the fight against terrorists by fishing out collaborators living among them in their communities. The chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Mr. Ola Olukayode, says the war against corruption cannot be won through lip service, emotional outbursts, or mere mob campaigns. Mr. Olukayode said this today on the occasion of the 2024 African Anti-Corruption Day in Kaduna. He said the world over, the issue of corruption has been a bane to both local and global development, adding that there cannot be accurate statistical or quantitative evaluation of the havoc corruption is wreaking on genuine efforts at development because of its pervasive and recurring nature. The EFCC chairman noted that aside terrorism, corruption ranks as the next deadliest affliction on humanity in every region of the world, noting that the danger and threat to existence which corruption represents. He said it was imperative that individuals, communities, corporate bodies, and indeed the world over join hands together to tackle it frontally. He added that one way of fighting the menace was through the Whistleblowing Initiative, a policy in Nigeria which was launched on December 21, 2016 by the federal government through the Federal Ministry of Finance as an anti-corruption program that encourages people to voluntarily disclose information about fraud, bribery, looted government funds, financial misconduct, abuse or embezzlement of government assets, and any other form of corruption or theft. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has called for more proactive measures towards curbing drug abuse among tertiary institution students in the country. The Kefi Area Commander, NDLEA Nasarawa State, Ndubisi Agabos, made the call in an interview with newsmen in Kefi. Agabos said that drug abuse among tertiary institution students in the area had become highly worrisome, noting that the agency had made tremendous efforts towards tackling drug abuse, addiction, and trafficking in the area. The NDLEA official said that parents had very critical roles to play in the campaign against drug abuse and addiction among youth. The commander also stated that the agency was making efforts to collaborate with the management of tertiary institutions in the area to organize anti-drug sensitization campaigns. Polytechnic lecturers in Nigeria have flayed a contentious document titled Scheme of Service for Polytechnics by the National Board for Technical Education (NBTE), alleging that it lacked inclusive stakeholder input, especially from the union and stakeholders in the polytechnic sector. The aggrieved lecturers issued a 15-day ultimatum to the federal government, effective July 8, 2024, to suspend the implementation of the rough work called Scheme of Service for the polytechnics or face diverse forms of industrial action by the union. While addressing a press conference in Kaduna, the zonal coordinator, Zone A, of the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, ASUP, Dr. Abdulaziz Ibrahim Badaru, said it has become imperative to address critical concerns regarding the newly released Scheme of Service, SOS, for polytechnics. The polytechnic lecturers observed and resolved that the National Board for Technical Education, NBTE, released a document titled Scheme of Service for Polytechnics, which lacks inclusive stakeholder input, particularly from the union and stakeholders in the polytechnic sector. It diverges significantly from a previously prepared document following extensive consultations and engagements that started since 2012, is seen as an intentional move by the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation and the NBTE to sow discord within the polytechnic sector. They said the current document is opposed unless all points of contention are addressed. Commuters traveling various highways and roads in Anambra State, especially along the Onitsha-Owerri dual carriageway, laments the heavy gridlock caused as a result of multiple roadblocks mounted by security operatives at various points. The areas where the checkpoints cause gridlock include Obosi Idemmili bypass under the newly completed Second Niger Bridge flyover, First Gate bus stop, Enomil bus stop, Ozubolo Police Area Command Headquarters, Ekusigo Local Government Area Headquarters at Ozubolo and Okija Junction, all along the Onitsha-Owerri dual carriageway. The Boremo bus stop, Obuogu Junction, Amabia bypass, Akuzu Junction, all along the Oka-Onitsha Expressway, among others. According to reports, the checkpoints mounted very close to each other by security operatives include police, naval ratings, and the army used to extort various sums of money from motorists plying the roads. The checkpoints engaged some youths to collect various amounts of money, ranging from 1,000 naira, 500 naira, and 100 naira from truck drivers, shuttle bus drivers, and tricycle operators. A concerned citizen and chairman, Board of Trustees of Importers Association of Nigeria, Chief Gilbert Obi, called on security agencies within the Anambra State Command to urgently monitor the activities of their subordinates at these road blocks. The state government has announced that the registration for the 2023-2024 Student Special Assistance Scheme SAS Bursary Award Program is ongoing. A statement signed by Director of Public Communication and Functioning Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Information, Mrs. Teresa Oliko, says applicants must be of Delta State origin and should have National Identification Number, NIN, and must also be registered full-time student, government-approved private tertiary and public institutions with the exemption of postgraduate diploma, master's degree, and doctorate degree students. The statement added that applicants must have a GPA of 2.20 and above in previous academic year's examination, a 200 level and above student, ND2 and HND2 in the Polytechnic and Monotechnics, and NCE 2 or 3 in the Colleges of Education, as well as an account with a Central Bank of Nigeria approved commercial bank. All eligible students are advised to log on to www.dsbsb.dl.gov.ng to register, while non-refundable online processing fee of 800 naira will be charged using a debit card. Applicants are advised to download and print their online acknowledgement card for personal record. The statement also added that application will end on Wednesday, July 31. You're watching Delta TV Main News at 8. Still to come, President Ruto dismisses almost the entire cabinet. Stay with us. Bulletin is next as we join our World News Desk.
The North Atlantic Treaty Organization NATO members have pledged their support for an irreversible path to future membership for Ukraine, as well as more aid. While a formal timeline for it to join the military alliance was not agreed at a summit in Washington, D.C., the military alliance's 32 members said they had unwavering support for Ukraine's war efforts. NATO had also announced further integration with Ukraine's military, and its members have committed $43.3 billion in aid, including F-16 fighters, jets, and air defense support. The bloc's Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said support to Ukraine was not charity, adding that it was in its own security interest. The Israeli military has told all residents of Gaza City to evacuate south to the central Gaza Strip amid intensified operations in the north. Leaflets dropped by aircraft instructed everyone in Gaza City to leave what was described as a dangerous combat zone, via designated safe routes marked as 2 roads that led to shelters in Deir al-Balah and al-Zawaida. The United Nations had said it is deeply concerned about the evacuation orders being given. It is the second time since the war began that Gaza City as a whole had been asked to evacuate. Over the past 2 weeks, Israeli forces have re-entered several districts where the military believed Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad fighters have regrouped since the start of the year. Hamas has said Israel's renewed activities in the city was threatening to derail negotiations over a potential ceasefire and hostage release deal, which resumed yesterday in Qatar. The talks are being attended by the intelligence chief of Egypt and the US and Israel, as well as the Prime Minister of Qatar. Top Hamas official Hossam Badran told newsmen that Israel is trying to pressure negotiations by intensifying bombing operations, displacement, and committing massacres. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu emphasized Israel's commitment to a deal as long as its red lines are preserved. Mali's ruling junta has announced that it was reauthorizing activities of political parties and political associations, which it had suspended in April due to accusations of political parties. The head of the military government, Colonel Assimi Goïta, had justified the suspension by citing the political parties' sterile discussions and subversion, which he said posed a danger to an ongoing national dialogue on the political future of Mali. The parties at the time were protesting the colonel's decision to stay in power beyond the March 2024 deadline for returning to civilian rule. The main parties and other opposition boycotted the dialogue, which went ahead with supporters of the regime, who in May issued recommendations that the military should remain in power for 2 to 5 additional years, and that the current head of the junta be allowed to run in any future presidential elections.
The foreign scene, Kenyan President William Ruto today announced the dismissal of almost its entire cabinet and consultations to form a broad-based government as he scrambled to contain the fallout of deadly protests against his administration. The East African nation was left reeling after peaceful rallies last month over steep tax increases escalated into violence, with police firing at crowds who stormed parliament, leaving it partly ablaze. Organized online and led largely by young Gen Z Kenyans, the protest plunged President Ruto's administration into the most serious crisis of his presidency, forcing him to abandon the finance bill containing the tax hikes. In the latest move to diffuse tensions, Mr. Ruto said his decision would extend with immediate effect to all ministers, including the Attorney General, but excluded Prime Cabinet Secretary and Foreign Minister Mr. Musalia Mudavadi and Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. The president said he decided on the dismissals upon reflection, listening keenly to what the people of Kenya have said, and after a holistic appraisal of the performance of his cabinet and its achievements and challenges. Last week, the Kenyan leader announced sharp cuts to government spending, including travel and refurbishment costs. Back home, the people of Ila in Oshimole North Local Government Area have been called upon to come out in their numbers on Saturday to cast their votes for the PDP candidates in the local government elections. The Executive Assistant to the Governor on Public Enlightenment, Government Projects and Policies, Mr. Olisa Ifejika, made the call at Ila when his wife played host to women mobilizers drawn from the 3 wards in Ila. Ijime Udreme reports.
Mr. Ifejika, who was the chief press secretary to Governor Ifeanyi Okowa, said the meeting was to fraternize with the women and also enlighten them on the need to mobilize others to cast their votes for the chairmanship and councillorship candidates of the PDP. He said the job was easier based on the fact that PDP administration has attracted development to the town and also empowered people in the area through its human capital development programs.
They might call to our youths, that's our young men, our young women, and everybody to come out. Other leaders to come and support us. So you heard what has happened today, that the women are united as always. And I won't be surprised that on Saturday they will come out in their big numbers. That's where they're always ready to support them. I've always supported them, the men, the women. But to support my wife now in this project she's doing.
The host, Mrs. Nerissa Olisa Ifejika, thanked the women for always giving their votes to the PDP since 1999 to date and urged them to do same in the forthcoming local government elections. Mrs. Olisa Ifejika told the people that the administration of Governor Sheriff Oborevwori has well-tailored programs to economically alleviate poverty and create wealth for women and youths.
Yes, because I came to celebrate with them because of their hard work. They are always dedicated, especially when the governor's wife came to visit them, before the elections, governorship elections. They promised that they were going to deliver, and they did. And because I've always told them, when we come for occasions, I meet with them. But I said, let me make this visit a significant one, so that they will remember that before the election, I also came. Like I will keep coming, and I know that they are going to vote for PDP. They have no other. They told me that they forbid any other party.
An indigene of the town, Mr. Chus Onwafogo, and others said Ela has been home for the PDP, emphasizing that the party will get maximum votes in the council elections. Advice to them.
Well, there's no position in Ela, as I know, because I started from the root and I wanted to go back to US. I said no, let me follow them and see how it's going to look at. And I know it's PDP is the total. Those people that are like APC or those ones, all of them has the voice to PDP for now.
The event featured special prayers for the state and presentation of gift items to the women by their host, Mrs. Olisa Ifejika. Ejime Uduime reporting.
This desk for happenings in the business sector.
The Corporate Affairs Commission has said it will cancel the certificate of incorporation of Bureau de Change, whose licenses have been revoked by the Central Bank of Nigeria. In February this year, the CBN revoked the licenses of 4,173 Bureau de Change operators over their failure to meet regulatory guidelines. In a statement by its acting director of corporate communications, Mr. Sidi Hakama, CBN explained that the regulatory provision flouted include non-payment of all necessary fees within the stipulated period. CBN said the affected institutions failed to observe at least one of the following regulatory provisions: payment of all necessary fees, including license renewal, within the stipulated period in line with the guidelines. In line with the above directive by the CBN, the CAC, in a notice on its website, said the certificate will be cancelled within 3 months if the affected companies do not change the names and objects of such companies. The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Dr. Olayemi Cardoso, has said that the Monetary Policy Committee hikes in interest rates were timely in stabilizing the economy. Speaking at the ongoing CEO Forum on the topic, Revitalizing Nigeria Economy, Strategic Monetary Policies for Economic Growth, hosted by Business Day Media, he said that the MPC is focused on taming the inflation rate and stabilizing the Naira. He said the MPC was not oblivious of the fact that the country does not grow if the hike hadn't been done at the time. The Naira would have almost tipped over, so it helped to stabilize the Naira. The Monetary Policy Committee has raised the MPRO by a total of 650 basis points, bringing the rate to 26.25% in May 2024. According to the CBN governor, the hikes were necessary to soak up excess liquidity in the economy and will be short-lived as the month-to-month inflation rate has already declined by 50% in 6 months. Speaking on the issue of FX volatility, Dr. Cardoso stated that the bank had to correct some dysfunctions in the financial system, such as illicit flows and people not abiding by the rules to ensure market stability. He noted that timely communication and market transparency have restored stakeholders' confidence.
Now, in sports, the draws for the 2024-25 CAF Interclub competitions took place today, and Nigeria's representatives have been handed a tricky opponent with mixed feelings. According to the draw, Remo Stars faced the most difficult opponent in the first preliminary round, Moroccan team Asfar. Rangers International had a relatively easy match against Comoros champion Sile Mujui. El Kanemi Warriors, the Federation Cup champions, were given a difficult task in the Confederation Cup against Daje FC of Benin. However, assuming they survive the Benin club, they will face former Moroccan champions RS Berkane in the second round. Eyimba International received drawn by in the first preliminary round, but will face the winner of Guinea's Hafia and Burkina Faso's Rahimo FC. Still talking sports, but away from Nigeria now. 20 times English Premiership winners Manchester United have declared that they are willing to sell Scottish midfielder Scott McTominay during the ongoing transfer season. The club's management revealed this today after several club sides expressed interest into the 9-year-old player. According to the Old Trafford landlord, McTominay is willing to leave the club and the management will not stand in his way. The club, however, said they can only sell the player when the club finds replacement for the Scottish captain, asserting that though his current contract would run out before the kick-off of the next season, it would hold onto the player until replacement is got. The Red Devils also revealed that it could hand the player contract extension even though replacement was got, as the club was keen on building a strong side that could challenge for titles next season. Manchester United are currently chasing the trio of João Neves of Benfica, Manuel Ugarte of Paris Saint-Germain, and Joshua Kimmich of Bayern Munich as likely replacement for McTominay. And here's our thoughts for the day. Hope is the flame that burns even in the darkest tunnel. And on that bright note, we sum up the news tonight. But before we go, a quick look on our major stories. The Supreme Court has declared that it is unconstitutional for state governors to hold onto funds meant for local government administrations. In the lead judgment read by Justice Emmanuel Ajim, The Apex Court noted that the state government's refusal of financial autonomy for local government has gone on for over 2 decades. The federal government is optimistic that the impasse over the new minimum wage will be resolved next week. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mr. Mohammed Malaki, and his Labor and Employment State counterpart, Mr. Nkiru Onyejocha, stated this after a closed-door session between President Bola Tinubu and leaders of the organized labor at the State House in Abuja. The House of Representatives has called for an end to attacks against journalists by security agencies. The decision was made today following the adoption of a motion moved by an Akwa Ibom lawmaker, Honorable Clement Jimbo, and from the foreign scene reported that Kenyan President William Ruto today announced the dismissal of almost his entire cabinet and consultations to form a broad-based government as he scrambled to contain the fallout of deadly protests against his administration. The president said he decided on the dismissals upon reflection, listening keenly to what the people of Kenya had said, and after a holistic appraisal of the performance of his cabinet and its achievements and challenges. And that's the news. Many thanks for being part of it tonight. My name is Francis Ofulue. Have a lovely evening. Good night.